Hey guys, this is Taeler Hendrix, and you are listening to Wrestling Epicenter. Check it out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Interactive Wrestling Radio right here on WrestlingEpicenter.com. It is I, James Walsh, going to be joined by Patrick Kelly after the interview, but this week we were joined by Boston's own, Boston Strong, Taeler Hendrix, for a great interview. This is actually the second time that she joined us. She joined us the first time back in February of 2012, before the TNA got checked. Now, after the TNA run, she joined us again. So, hope everybody enjoys this interview with the one and only One Girl Nation, Taeler Hendrix, and hope you guys stay tuned after the interview as we run down the top 5 TNA knockouts of all time. Will Taeler make the list? Just have to wait and see.
Hi, this is Terry Reynolds, and you are listening to the Interactive Interview, and I love being interactive with these guys.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to WrestlingEpicenter.com. On the Newsmaker line with us once again is a young lady who a lot of people didn't know too much about when we had her on the first time, but now we all know her name. The TNA Gut Check winner and former TNA Knockout, Taeler Hendrix. Taeler, are you with us?
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Hey, it's great to have you on the show. Long time no see. I just said we've been trying to set this one up for a while, so I'm glad we finally were able to connect.
I know, it's been, like a year at least? More than that.
Yeah, it was February of 2012, so gosh, what was that, 18, 19 months, something like that, yeah.
Wow, so much has happened since then.
Absolutely, and I guess the first thing I got to ask you is how you doing since departing from TNA about 2 months ago?
I don't even know, there's not even enough adjectives to describe. I am fabulous, fantastic, upbeat, peachy, happy, best I've ever been.
So I take it that this was good news for you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it was partly my decision, but partly not.
That is actually part of one of my questions. Yeah, that was the rumor. Rumors had said that you had actually requested your release, but then later rumors said that the contract had just expired and they didn't renew it. Kind of wanted to get what was the actual story on that.
Now, if I talk about it, are you going to report it in a negative way that makes me look bad?
I don't see why I would do that. I actually like you, so I would never do anything like that.
Oh, I'm just joshing you. I actually wanted my release because I felt like it wasn't fair to me, to anyone else, and to TNA if, there wasn't a position for me and you couldn't use me at the moment. I didn't feel like it was right of me to be taking up and absorbing the company's money. And I didn't feel like it was fair for me because I was doing the exact same thing that I was doing before being signed. So I felt like there wasn't really much of an advancement for me at that particular point in time. And if there was a spot that needed to be filled, then I would want someone who deserves it to have that spot. And I'm not saying that I don't feel like I deserve it. I'm just saying that there's so many other talented girls out on the independents, and if one of them could fill a spot that TNA wanted to fill that I wasn't applicable for, then I would want them to have it. I wouldn't want to stand in the way. And I really felt like that's what I was doing because there wasn't a spot open for me at the moment. I don't know why. I don't know how or any of the logistics of that because I feel like I deserve to be used, but, if the right storyline or the right circumstance didn't come up, I'm not going to hold a grudge and be bitter about it. It's just not my style. And before I could ask for my release, I got released. My contract, what you said is actually false. My contract did not expire because my contract was signed on the 3rd of July, which means it's valid on the 4th. So my contract actually expired on the 3rd, but I got a phone call on the morning of, or late morning of the 2nd. So that's just how it all went down. And I mean, hey, if a talent's unhappy or whatever, it makes sense. I mean, I'm not bitter about it. I feel like I didn't get a chance to prove all that I can do, and I feel like I didn't get, that that moment, but I feel like with what I had, I thought I did show myself well and represented myself well, and I felt like I had a good shot at hanging with those ladies. So overall, it was a good experience, and I don't regret it. It definitely made me see what my values are and what my strengths are as a performer and what my weaknesses are. So.
Very cool, very cool. And when they announced the gut check thing, I first thing I thought of was, well, when they do a girl, it'll probably be her because she seems the most ready for prime time, as they used to say about the Saturday Night Live crew. But when it did happen, that was definitely cool to see. What did you think of the initial experience of, I guess back then, appearing in Orlando and wrestling such a seasoned veteran who I know that you grew up watching in Tara?
It was surreal. I mean, I love Tara so much, and all right, I'm going to come right out and say it. I was scared as hell. I was so scared. I thought I was going to, pee myself and run home screaming to mommy. Not because of her or her presence, but just because, that was the biggest moment of my career, wrestling on national and international television. And I knew that was my moment, and if I didn't take full advantage of it, it would be gone, and I would regret it for the rest of my life. And also, I was afraid of shitting it up for the world to see, But I kind of just threatened myself before I went out the curtain, and I kind of made all the sound guys laugh at me, and it was really funny. And I try to approach everything in my life with some sort of humor. My life's too short. My life's too short to be upset all the time and angry and bitter and nasty. So I'm threatening myself with an hour of cardio every single day and never eat another cookie and never get to go on vacation ever again. And just anything that I could have possibly enjoyed, I threatened to cut myself off from. You're never going to be able to go home and see mom again, and you're never going to go to your sister's graduation. Like, I went through the mill. I ran the mill on, every possible guilt trip I could have ran on myself.
In front of the sound guys.
Yes, in front of them, out loud, and it was hilarious. I'm doing a dance, waving my finger in a negative manner, pointing at myself, and just completely oblivious to the world until I start hearing laughter. And it was really funny because the sound guy who was supposed to tell me when to go out the curtain, because, I didn't know what gut check music was. I didn't know when I was supposed to come out or whatever, so they tell you. And he missed the cue at first because he was laughing so hard at me. So it was kind of a fun little backstage moment, and I told myself that this is my shot, give it all you got, and regardless of if I get a contract or not, I'm still proud of myself because I know that there's a million people out there who thought I'd never make it. And I actually just found out about one person in particular from back home who he thought I shouldn't have made it and thought it was ridiculous that I was picked. So luckily I'm too much of a lady to mention names, or he would be on blast right now for how crappy he is.
I was just about to ask if there was anybody in particular, but if you wanted to name him.
No, see, I'm too much of a lady to mention names, but he's definitely indie-tastic, and he hasn't gone anywhere. And that just attests to the fact that you need to work hard to get somewhere. You need to work hard. You need to train. You need to go to the gym. You need to train with reputable trainers. And, it's not about, getting your moves in. It's not about, hey, I just saw this really cool thing. I want to try it. It's about perfecting your craft and knowing how to work and knowing your character and knowing what your strengths are and knowing how to work with somebody else, And those are all things that I am currently learning and trying my hardest to learn everything I can. And that's what Gut Check really did for me. It really put me in a position to be able to do that because it put me on, a higher stage. OVW set me up for that, and I'm definitely not the same person because I feel like I gained more life experience out of that, which helped me mature. Mm-hmm. And working under Lisa was fantastic. That woman could wrestle a broomstick and make it look good. I mean, there's not many women who can say that, and she's definitely one of them. And it was a very big moment to wrestle her, being one of the first women I ever saw on television. And when I started training with Bob Evans back home, he actually told me, take a little bit of each wrestler and each character that you love and kind of morph it into your own. You're not going to copy anybody because it's already been done. So just take something and make it you. And there was definitely several things that struck out for me about her, and to have my first match on such a grand stage, be with her, it was definitely the biggest moment. So that also made me terrified. I was like, oh, my God, if I make her hate me, I will never forgive myself.
Well, you guys worked a couple of times. You actually worked Thanksgiving night with her, too, and you just seem so much more comfortable in front of the camera, from my perspective, from everything from the entrance to your ring work the second time around than the first time. Was it more settling? Were you more at peace the second time around?
No, I mean, I've always been very comfortable in front of the camera. I've always wanted to be an actress, so that's something that naturally I always sought out as a child and going throughout school and college and everything. So the cameras never really have much of an effect on me. Talking on the mic is something I love to do. I feel like I can do that better than I can wrestle sometimes. So none of that really played into my psyche at all. It didn't really faze me. I think why I felt so much more comfortable is because now I had an identity. I had a reason to do things the way I wanted to do them. I was trying to bring a character to life, so to speak, so that way I could make a home for myself, because I didn't want to be one of those cookie-cutter, generic default player number one sort of girls that you can, intermingle and interchange because they all look the same, the gear's all the same, they all wrestle the same, and they all scream and shake their butt. So I was really looking to sort of have my own niche and create my own little role.
Very cool. Well, while you were not being used too much on TNA, you were getting a chance to work both sides of the aisle a little bit on OVW, which I have praised several times in the show. Anybody who doesn't already do this, check out OVWrestling.com. You can watch all the back catalog of the TV shows, and it's just so much fun. But you got a chance to go from One Girl Nation, a little bit more of the babyface girl, to being a little bit more of the a little bit more of a bitch, a little bit more of a heel. Did you enjoy? Which do you enjoy being more? What is more true to what you want to be doing?
Well, growing up, I always idolized Betty Davis, and she always said the people that are really good, genuinely good people in real life are also more often than not the people that play the best villains in films, and the same for vice versa. So if you're kind of a jerk in real life, you're really good at playing the hero or the heroine. So that was really fun for me to test that out, and because I genuinely like to think of myself as a positive, fun-loving, and giving person, and for me to step foot into something that was completely not who I am on a daily basis, it was so much fun, and it was a mistake how it came about, and I'm really happy that I made that mistake. That was one of the best mistakes I probably have ever made in my life, and it actually. I'm sorry?
How do you mean a mistake?
I messed up in a segment, and it actually gave Al Snow an idea, and people didn't think I could do it. And I don't think they really realized how much of a range I could have if given a chance. And it was really the opportunity that I've been waiting for. I wish I could take credit for the fact that, say, I did it on purpose, but I really didn't. I can't really go into much more detail other than that, but okay. It ended up being the best decision of my career because that's what led to me being put with Dylan Bostic at OVW, and we started that storyline, which was really groundbreaking because it hadn't been done in a while, and it really put me at the center of our female division at that time, which was really cool because I had a chance to learn how to lead instead of being led. So I got to make a whole bunch of new kinds of mistakes and learn from those. So I kind of make a joke that what am I going to get into this season? Because, I went from being the One Girl Revolution, Taeler Hendrix, standing up for women's rights and all this and that, and to, I feel like it's evolving with me as I become more of an adult. And then I went from being with Dylan Bostic in a storyline to being in a love triangle with Heidi Lovelace to, being the leader of my own little posse, kind of like Clueless or Mean Girls or Pretty Little Liars. So it's been really fun to try out all of these different things and really develop into what character I'm meant to be in this business. So I have a lot of wiggle room. I have a lot of vignettes coming out that I'm going to be so excited about, and it's going to be so much fun. I love what I'm doing right now, and I don't think I've ever enjoyed it this much.
Very cool. And speaking of OVW, they seem to be reaching out further to the Internet than ever before with running the Saturday night specials on iPay-per-view, which is definitely a big thing for those who never get a chance to see them. And I got to tell you, it's a pain watching the TV shows. Like, I want to see the show, but I can't. So now you can, if you are an internet fan and want to keep up with OVW, you can definitely check out the Saturday Night Specials.
Absolutely. We have this one really cool show that I'm so excited about. We just had our first one last month. It's called OVW Presents Old School. And I know that many people are different. You know, we're in a society where we're allowed to be individuals. But for me in this business, what I identify with the most is not necessarily the wrestling I see now, but the wrestling from, 20 years ago and 30 years ago and stuff like that. I always identify with that more, and that's what OVW Presents Old School is all about. It's Danny Davis and Rip Rogers' pet project. It's their big dream to try to bring that style, that 80s style wrestling back on the market, and it's really cool. You have all 80s wrestling, 80s characters, and it's just all simple storytelling, and it's fabulous. It's so much fun. The crowd had such a great time, and I had such a great time being a part of it. So there's literally something going on every single day of the week at OVW. It's busy, busy, busy.
Very cool. I love Rip Rogers, by the way. How's he doing?
He's awesome. He just had surgery. We actually did this show for him to help raise money. It was No Holds Barred. It was really cool because you got to see Trailer Park Trash, Danny Davis, Rip Rogers, and Nick Dinsmore tell road stories and stuff. So it was kind of really funny to listen to all these different stories and all these different things that happen, anything from Stone Cold to people that train in Seattle to, people that used to be at OVW like Rob Conway and, Randy Orton and stuff. So it was really fun to hear all kinds of stories from over the years. And we were able to do that and help raise some money for Rip. And he's doing great, teaching class every weekend. So running our butts ragged. So it's good. It's a great.
Very cool. Well, I hate to ask this question because you're just such a nice person. I don't want to drag it to you being angry, but I have to ask you, as you were leading into your last appearance with TNA, which was with Mickie James, just a couple weeks before that you had done an internet interview that I did check out, and you had mentioned that you were basically saying, hey, tell me what I could do. Tell me what I could do to get on TV. What can I do? What do I need to fix? Did you feel frustrated? Because when you appeared on the show, they really didn't even announce who Mickie was going to be wrestling. It was like, Mickie James in action. And then when you came out, it's like, okay, cool. It's just glad to see her on TV. Was it kind of rushed, and how did you enjoy working with Mickie?
It was really rushed. I didn't have much head notice. Actually, now that I say that and now that I think about it, that's probably the most head notice I've ever had. But at the same time, it was so rushed. I had to get professional gear. I had to get all this stuff. And I didn't look the best, as people like to constantly remind me. But that's because, hello, you're wrestling Mickie James. You didn't have much head notice. And on top of that, you're nervous as hell and you're sick. My stomach was so bloated. I was so nervous. I couldn't breathe. It's my first time that I've been on TV in a while. And I was told that was my one shot, I got to prove to them that I'm something, prove to them I'm a superstar or whatever. And it wasn't, I don't think I had a bad performance. I went in there, I did what I was told to do, I performed, and it was really cool because Mickie James and Tara are both former OVW.
Right.
So it's really awesome for me to wrestle with them because it's kind of an extended family. We always talk about it, OVW, and ODB is also former OVW. So when I get to work with those girls, there's like a little bit of a bond because we all know what it's like, and we all know how hard you have to work as a female at OVW. You have to learn how to keep up with the guys. You have to do the training, and there's really no excuse. Just because you're a girl doesn't give you a bye, and plus if you want to actually know how to work and be a wrestler, not just a girl in it for the attention or for the money. So now that I said that, working with Mickie was really cool because I got to experience that with her. I don't get to work with veterans very often, and she's someone that I consider to be able to learn so much from. So I was really, really, really excited. But, she's also champ, so I'm really, really nervous because if I shit it up, then I make the champ look bad, So my main priority was just to show that I could hang, I could look good, and I could do my part to make someone else look good too. Although not like she needs the help or anything, but each time I wrestled at TNA, it was with a champion. I wrestled Velvet on a house show loop when she was a champion, and that's why I think they did that, because I wasn't announced for a reason. I was a surprise, I guess. You know, I guess I was just a device being used during the whole Mickey versus Velvet angle because I wrestled Velvet, and so Mickey said, I'm wrestling someone tonight that you overlooked. So I'm assuming that's what that meant. And then also I wrestled Mickey when she was champion, and then I wrestled Taeler when she was champion. So I felt like that was an honor to me because, you know, I'm being in there with someone, you know, who's holding the title for the women's division. And I felt like I waited so long for that chance, so I really wanted to make the most of it. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't meant to be.
Oh, wow. I'm kind of trying to dance around saying this, but in the last interview I saw that you did online, and I'm sure you've done more than your share since leaving TNA, you mentioned something Dixie Carter had said to you. And if you're not comfortable talking about it, don't. But what was that about? I was trying to get some context on the remark. The remark that was posted on all the news lines was, she said you were, quote, too heavy for TV.
I am, see, it's funny because even you've interviewed me before. I have never gone on an interview, and I'm not known to be extremely controversial. I'm not that stupid. And I think to go on and say something like that is definitely career suicide. I mean, there's one of 3 companies, and there's really only one, unless you're already an established name, who's going to pay you well. So why would you sabotage your career by talking about a former employer? With that being said, I think it was the way that I answered the question on the Greg DeMarco show that gave that confusion, but at the same time, it should have been clarified, you know. So it was both people's fault, you know. It was partly my fault and partly, you know, the Greg DeMarco show's fault, but I'm not bitter about it. I thought it was really embarrassing at the time. I will neither confirm nor deny what was said to me. All I know is I was told I was heavy. But, you know, when I'm 5'7" and I weigh under 130 pounds, I don't think that's heavy.
No,
you know, especially when I am taller than most of the girls I wrestle. So it's, you know, I'm not a giant by any means, but I'm not fat, I'm not heavy, and I'm definitely not short. And plus, I like a woman to have curves, you know. There's nothing plastic on me. So what curves I've got is what my mama gave me. There's nothing wrong with plastic, but I just don't have any, and nor do I want to spend that much money on it, you know.
My co-host, who was going to be part of the interview, but he actually is sick and in bed right now, when I told him about the remark, because we write out the questions in advance, he said, she said that about her? She must be insane. But, I mean, I think that you're right. Sometimes the Internet takes these remarks and, you know.
Well, yeah, it's drama. It's drama. That's all it is. Drama sells. People want to create drama because it's entertaining to them, but they don't understand how dastardly that is, how incriminating that is, because people were accosting Dixie Carter. And that, to me, is not right. That's not how I want my fans to represent me, and that's not how I want fans to represent TNA either, because whether you agree or disagree with the decisions that are made in this business, it's irrelevant, because they're going to get made with or without your consent. I mean, you know what I mean? So I really didn't appreciate that, but I know it wasn't done maliciously, at least the people trying to defend me. I know it wasn't malicious, but it really didn't put me in the best light, and that really made me nervous because I thought that would hurt my chances for any other opportunities that may arise in the future or near future or the distant future. So it made me really nervous, and I don't know. I hope I bounce back from that, but you never know. You know, the damage could already be done to my career, but I know I'm intelligent enough and I'm nice enough and humble enough to say I'm sorry. I won't deny that the comment was said to me. I just won't say who or where. I just know that I heard it on my birthday. Because my birthday was actually the next day. I appeared on Impact the night before my birthday, which was actually ODB's birthday. The next day was my 24th birthday, and then I also heard it a week and a half before I got released. So I heard it twice. But, I mean, it wasn't said maliciously. It was said, you know, hey, this is thought, and, you know, it's your own fault. But I gained weight for a reason. I gained weight because I wanted to be healthy, and I wanted to be able to go to the doctor and her tell me, hey, all those precancerous cells that you have, they're gone. So that's what I'm really shooting for, and my stuff came back worse. So they went from mild to moderate precancerous, and that means I think I'm one level away from possibly having surgery. But I'm pretty optimistic. You know, I've prayed. I'm doing everything I'm told to do, and one of them was gain some weight because I guess being at 109 pounds and 5'7" was really unhealthy. But I didn't realize how bad it looked until my little sister's boyfriend said, wow, your sister looks anorexic. And then a light bulb kind of went on after that, and I realized that's not the type of role model I want to be, especially for her and especially for other girls that want to get, you know, achieve their dreams. So long story short, that's the...
Well, as an interviewer, I can tell you I've interviewed people who have been very, very straightforward and people who have been very professional, and I was actually very impressed the first time I interviewed you because you are very intelligent. You handle yourself extremely professionally. There is no attempt to bury anybody, and all you do is talk about your career. So, I mean, I got to tell you, you handle yourself in interviews like a veteran, and I think that is definitely something that you should know from me, because I've been doing this 11 years. I've interviewed basically everybody you can imagine, and I was impressed the first time around that you handle yourself the way that you did.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's nice to hear something good once in a while.
Well, the last time we talked, you talked a little bit about your experiences with ROH, and I had to admit I've seen some of your stuff. At least one of your matches was Shine. I don't even know if you've worked there more than once, but what is on tap other than OVW for you right now?
I have actually got a lot going on right now. I'm really excited. Being with TNA and then being released has really opened up some doors for me to advance myself on the independents and not, you know, to be, oh, I'm an indie wrestler, I'm going to go wrestle strong style or whatever the new fad is. No, I just want to get more experience under my belt and wrestle different people and things like that. Just get more overall experience and more exposure and just stay active in my craft so I'm not getting sloppy and lazy and just try to build a name for myself, essentially, because, you know, I have aspirations and I want to go somewhere. I'm starting Saw in Nashville, which is a weekly TV program on Fridays. I actually just posted about that on Twitter. My first match for them will be on September 6th against Heidi Lovelace, who I've been battling since she debuted at OVW over a year ago.
Yeah.
I also am returning to Shine in September as well, so I'm really excited about that. I had a really fun three-way against Sojo Bolt and Heidi Lovelace again. The last time I was there for Shine 2, I believe.
Yeah, that was back in August last year. Yeah.
Yes. I'm also looking to go back to Ring of Honor because I see that they're using more girls and stuff. And I remember the last time I really didn't get a chance to really show what I could do because I was just so new and, you know, I'm still green, but I was so much more green then, and I just got the crap beat out of me. You know, you have to pay your dues, and the crowd hated me. Those fans hated me, so I want to go back there and really give them something to hate now that I know better. Where else am I going? I'm also returning to Girls Night Out the first time in a year in Cleveland in October. And another booking I'm really excited about is I'm getting to wrestle Katarina Waters or, you know, Katie Lee for Wrestling Cares with Les Thatcher out in Los Angeles. So I'm really, really excited about that because her and Beth Phoenix are the only two women to ever have a ladder match at Ohio Valley Wrestling, and it was awesome. It's on YouTube. I highly recommend checking that out. Where else am I going? I have so many things going on that I can't really keep it straight. I have a couple conventions in New Jersey that I'm going to. I will be in Buffalo, New York in October as well. So I am staying really, really busy. I'm kind of just here, there, and everywhere. I just made my debut to Women's Superstars Uncensored. I wrestled Santana Garrett, who was amazing. That girl is a spitfire of talent. My goodness gracious. So I have a lot going on. So much, and I'm starting up my website again, and I'm getting back on my feet now that I'm on my own, and OVW has been an awesome outlet for me, you know, wrestling every single week. So I'm going to a bunch of places. I'm literally hitting coast to coast in the next month and a half, so I'm pretty excited.
Very cool. And I'm going to ask you this because it's just something that I found funny. Before Brooke Hogan called you this, had anybody ever called you Tay-Tay before?
Yes, and I was really surprised that she called me that. That is something only my family usually calls me. I don't like anybody that I'm not intimately with to call me that. But talking with Brooke, she was just such a sweetheart. I loved her tremendously, and to be quite honest, I wasn't expecting it. You know, I'm the new girl. I'm a nobody, and she was sweet from day one, you know, backstage and up front. So I really didn't mind her calling me that. It seemed appropriate because she was kind of like a mother hen. She was always asking me how I was doing, if I was okay, if I needed anything. She even helped me with my hair one day. So she was fantastic. Her and her dad were amazing to me. I couldn't have asked for a better welcome from either of them. It was really nice and heartwarming. But, yeah, usually just my mom, my sister, and my cousin and her daughters. So pretty much my immediate family are the only ones that usually call me that.
Yeah, it just seems so natural, but it also kind of valley-ish. You know, it's kind of like, I'm not sure if that's something that she just came up with, or it just seems so natural to say. That's why I asked. So.
Nope, I've been called that since the day I was born.
Oh, there you go. All righty. Well, I can't thank you enough for spending this time with us, and everybody should check you out on Facebook. You're offering some great new things, Boston Strong.
This is Kimberly Page, and the Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
8x10s and a lot of great posters. So those who want to have a piece of Taeler on the wall, go ahead and send her an email. She really has some great pricing as well. So check that out. And again, can't thank you enough for spending as much time as you have with us. And thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you.
This is Kimberly Page, and the Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
And we're back from our great interview with Taeler Hendrix. It's James Walsh, joined by the conspicuous by his absence, Patrick Kelly. Patrick, are you with us?
Yes, I was sick the day of the interview, so unfortunately I was not a part of it. But while you were talking to Taeler, I was unconscious.
Yeah.
So that explains my absence.
And the shame is that Patrick really seemed like he actually wanted to interview her. And I tried to call him several times before the interview started. But I knew he was sick, so I kind of got the feeling I was pissing him off. So I said, all right, 3 times.
Oh, no, I was unconscious. I completely slept through my phone calls. So I didn't even get your phone calls until 3 a.m.
No big
deal. Will do that to you.
No big deal. Yes, it will do that to you. That stuff makes you, it's especially the daytime one. The NyQuil one will do something to you, but the daytime one, the non-drowsy kind, will put you catatonic.
See, I've never had a problem with the daytime one, but whenever I take the nighttime one, I'm just out. And when I wake up, I start hallucinating that there are mice and rats all over the place. Which is bizarre, but it happens.
I had something similar happen. When I took Dayquil, I was working very, very odd hours. I still do, but even more odd, like midnight until noon or something crazy like that at the time. I took Dayquil at like 3 o'clock because I just felt awful. Dayquil, non-drowsy Dayquil. I got a 15-minute break, so I went back to the bedroom. I work from home. I'm scratching my head in there thinking, I feel terrible. How am I going to do this? I looked at the clock, and I was late coming back from my break, and I thought, I better go. And I had an out-of-body experience where I saw myself from the staircase run past the staircase into the office, but I wasn't me. I was Zeus, and the Z on the side of my head was on fire.
And this is Zeus Tiny Lister.
Zeus Tiny Lister, yes, the Zeus Tiny Lister.
One of the more interesting interviews we've ever done.
Yeah, I put that one up. He's in jail, by the way.
Oh, yes?
Well, he was. I don't know if he still is. He got caught for embezzling. He had people invest money into things, and he just took the money. Ended up costing something like $3 million.
Well, maybe that's why his character was in jail for The Dark Knight.
Very possibly, very possibly.
If you've ever seen that movie. Well, I assume everybody in America has seen that movie, but yeah.
All right. Well, we just had Taeler Hendrix on the show, great girl, and I told her in the interview, and I'll say it now, very professional, more so than somebody of her age should be. Mm-hmm. So very good head on her shoulders, which is not...
Well, the first time we talked to her, she mentioned her college education and everything, and she really does strike me as a very well-spoken person and really knows how to carry herself in interviews, which is why I was a little surprised reading the headlines after she departed TNA that, you know, she was... the way the interviews made it sound that she was being bitter about comments made to her by Dixie Carter. Of course, you know, she comes onto our show, and that's not the case at all. But
well, I mean, it's not necessarily even being bitter. Like Like if you listen to, we just talked about Bret Hart off the air, and it's like, well, Bret after WCW was doing interviews saying, Eric Bischoff said he was going to make me the biggest star in the company and the biggest star in wrestling and all this stuff. And, yeah, he's being bitter. But he was accurate for being bitter. There's a difference between being bitter. There's a difference between being bitter because you're bitter and you're angry at the world and being bitter because you were legitimately screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bruno, for example. Glad he's in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely deserves it. Was a blemish on the Hall of Fame until he got put in there. The dude's bitter. The dude really is bitter. I mean, it's the truth. He's bitter, but you know what? Maybe he has some kind of legitimacy towards it, but I don't know. Maybe it seems to me like he might be just a little bit wrongly bitter.
Well, he also had to work closely with Vince McMahon, and he didn't like him, so read into that any way you will. And apparently it was Triple H who got him to finally agree to do it, which makes me wonder if Triple H's influence on the company actually is a good thing.
Well, it's probably because Triple H was trained by Killer Kowalski.
Mm-hmm.
And they had that tie. Obviously, Bruno and Killer were linked at the hip to some degree, of the same era, of the same ilk. So that's probably where if there was a respect factor in that, that's probably where it stems from.
Yeah.
By the way, we're going to do a Knockouts Top 5, and we're going to have a short show today, but I wanted to talk about something very gross.
Okay.
There is a pornographic film out called China, Queen of the Ring.
Oh, dear.
This has gone under the radar on the newsline, but I think it needs to be mentioned, and since I'm the pornographic kind of pervert to some extent, I'll be the one to do it.
Okay, the fact that it's not on the newsline means that you had to go out and search for it.
No, I heard it. I heard somebody mention it on one of the forums, and I thought, oh, dear God, I need to see it. The movie opens up with her arguing with a Vince McMahon, who proclaims himself to be Vince McMahon, and his daughter Stephanie McMahon. Again, no fake names, no McMuffets, no McNuggets, no nothing stupid nicknaming or inferring. They call themselves by these names.
Okay.
She gets into an argument because she's going to win the match tonight. And they end the argument by her telling them to suck it. Stephanie says, oh, Daddy, do we have to? And then the three have a three-way sex scene. The next scene is she goes to the ring and has a group sex scene with, and I'm not joking, a guy dressed as Doink the Clown, who they call Doink the Clown, a guy dressed as John Cena, who they call John Cena, a guy dressed as Bret Hart, who they call Bret Hart, and Triple H, a guy who dresses as Triple H, makes a run, or whatever that is, a jizz-in, whatever the hell you want to call it. He makes an appearance, and he busts on her, for lack of a better, couth way of putting this.
Wow.
This is the scene. And the main event is she can't go over because these guys don't put anybody over. That's what the Vince McMahon says. She has a group sex scene in the ring with a mock Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. This is the video. I actually sat there after it feeling sick to my stomach. I'm not saying that because Chyna's ugly. I don't think she is. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but I could certainly see how the rabbit could come out of the hat. But she's not my cup of tea. It's the fact that such disrespect to the wrestling business, just blatant disrespect for it, and how they didn't get sued. It was Vivid Entertainment. Vivid is the ones who are like the WWE of porn. They're kings, the ones who sign the legitimate stars, if there's such a thing in pornography. And they were using legitimate WWE-owned copyrighted names and not saying, a name that's close to it. It was just complete blasphemy. It was horrible.
They probably thought, speaking from the WWE's point of view, they probably thought, why even bother? Like, what do we have to gain from this by even giving this attention? Because what will happen is they'll acknowledge it by having the lawsuit, and then people will go out of their way to go see it now. Because, I've never heard about this until you brought it up.
It is arguably...
And no, I have no intention of watching it.
It is arguably the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
And I don't mean that, like I said, China might not be my cup of tea, but I'll give her props. She seems to know what she's doing. I mean, I'll give her credit in that sense. And no, I don't watch a hell of a lot of pornography. I've seen enough in my youthful days to know that she's skilled at what she does. But to be doing that, to be from wrestling and to do a wrestling-based movie like that where you basically just make a mockery of the whole thing is just asinine. And there was a rumor a few months ago that, WWE is interested in bringing her back in. No, they're not. Trust me. No, they're not.
That's probably what started the movie. They probably turned her down again.
Possible. Who knows?
Yeah, because if you have somebody who is bitter, I mean, you want to talk about somebody that's bitter about what happened to her in wrestling, it's China.
And again, hers.
I mean, she's been a train wreck ever since she left.
She's been a train wreck ever since. That part's on her. The fact was she did get screwed over pretty big.
Absolutely. But there comes a point where you got to, it's like, all right, look, this happened. You got to move on.
All right, this is what happened. Now your move. Now you could sulk about it for so long, but then you have to kind of make your next move. And if your next move is into hardcore pornography, having sex with mock wrestlers, then you probably took a wrong turn somewhere.
Yeah. In addition to all the, in addition to the drug addictions that have gone on as well, which hasn't helped.
Absolutely. Well, what we're going to do is, since Taeler Hendrix is a former TNA knockout, we're going to do a quick top 5 list. We're bringing back the top 5. We're going to make it a quick show tonight. Basically going over the top 5 knockouts of all time to also celebrate the one-night-only pay-per-view, Knockouts Knockdown, which aired tonight. So, Patrick, did you want to start with your list?
Sure, I will start with mine. And I should note that the girls I went with mostly, I left out the Mickie Jameses and the Taras, not because I don't think that they've contributed something, but because they're more WWE products in my mind, with one exception, which I'll get into in a bit. But to me, they're like WWE products, WWE talents that came over to TNA and helped add legitimacy to the division. But I don't really see them as like TNA products. So I went with more TNA original type girls. Number 5 is Taylor Wilde, who I thought was very good, and I really liked the way she worked in the ring. Kind of this lady cruiserweight wrestler that her stuff was actually pretty crisp, and I always felt like she didn't get enough credit for being as good as she was. Number 4, I'm giving to ODB for being one of the better knockout characters ever created, and one of the more unique personalities in women's wrestling. Number 3, I gave to Angelina Love mainly because of her mic work and the way that she was able to carry herself as a television character, something that you usually don't get with the girls. And I always felt like she was underappreciated in that aspect. I felt like on the mic she could carry, her own with any of the men. The number 2 I'm going to give to Awesome Kong because, as I said back when she first debuted in 2007, she is basically the Vader of women's wrestling and made an instant impact. And it's a legitimacy to the division because, people thought it's like, oh, this is just going to be another Divas division where they just showcase half-naked women and that's it. But no, she brought a completely different dimension to women's wrestling that was not being showcased on a mainstream level at the time. So Awesome Kong was had a huge impact on women's wrestling, especially for TNA at the time. And my number 1 is Gail Kim, who was there at the start of the division. She's one of the best workers that I've ever seen in ladies wrestling, and continues to contribute to the division in really big ways.
Absolutely, and I don't disagree with any of those picks. I'm going to have different ones, but I don't disagree with any of those picks or the logic behind them because they all added something.
Mm-hmm. So what's yours, James?
We had a little bit of a tech blip there, but we're back, and like I said to Pat, I agree with most of your top 5 knockouts of all time list, and I'm going to give a little bit of a different perspective on the list based on probably closer to the earlier days of the company because my history.
Well, there was no official division.
There was,
but they still had girls.
Yeah. I mean that's the case. They had girls, but they were few and far between, and there wasn't much for them to do because of. I'll get into that. Well, why don't we get started then? I'll explain that with this one. Number 5, despite personal issues with this person, I'm going to give her the nod.
You have personal issues with this person? I'm shocked.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into that, but number 5 is Trinity on my list. Say what you will, and I probably have. The fact of the matter is, when it came to being a female in the TNA company, she's the first one that really mattered. They had ones before her, cage dancers.
But those were trashy, by the way.
Oh, the brunette was great, but yeah, they were trashy. And
I don't mind the way they looked, obviously, but as far as the overall presentation, going back and watching some of that old stuff, I was like, wow, that looks really trashy.
Yeah, I really don't. They had girls dancing in cages around the ring entrance. It was kind of strange, but I guess they were still trying to play to the TNA name as T&A.
Uh-huh.
I was told that they were strippers, and one might have even been a hooker. I have no idea how true that is, but that's the rumor that I had heard. Before her, there was Belladonna, there was Lollipop had been there before her, and all that. But the one who actually made an impact because she wrestled a guy was Trinity. So I'll give her praise for that. And part of the reason why there wasn't much of a knockouts division or a girl influence until they went full bore with it, with I think you could argue the first real knockouts feud was Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, was because In Demand basically threatened to pull TNA from its pay-per-view lineup, which when you're a pay-per-view only company, that's like saying we're going to kill your company, if they ever did anything violent towards women again after the Kid Cash and Trinity first match, because it just was it was so brutal that they threatened to pull the rug out from them. They basically said, look, if you do anything this violent again, we're not going to air it.
So barbed wire matches are okay.
It's towards women. It really is a strange dichotomy. It's like it's very strange. Like when you look at ECW and all that, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so hardcore" and all this stuff. The only reason a lot of people say it was hardcore is because it was the first time that the girls were taking bumps. Mm-hmm. Girls didn't take bumps before. Elizabeth never took bumps. Sherry did.
Oh, no.
They were comical bumps for the guys usually, like Hogan would pull her skirt off or something, but. Yeah, I mean there was not a lot of bumping going on for the women prior to ECW, but yeah, that's the truth. So that's my number 5. Number 4, and this is probably based on looks and how over she is rather than wrestling ability, though I think she's better than she gets credit for. Velvet Sky is my number 4. The fact is, the Beautiful People were every bit as important to the company as they get remembered for being, and. Her influence on it all was really huge. She's a butt double for movie actresses, and you could see why.
I never knew that. That's interesting.
She did do a butt double for a couple of female actresses. I cannot tell you what they were or who they were, but yeah, she did do that. And she's one of the more well-liked female performers that they've ever had. She's definitely the most popular. Babyface-wise that they have right now. That goes without saying. There's not that many to choose from, though. So,
yeah.
Number 3, I'm going to go with Mickie James. Now, I know your reasoning for not putting her on the list was pretty important. I think that when she came in, they were in need of legitimizing, if that's a word, the division again. Legitimizing. There we go. I added an extra syllable. The division again, a lot of the girls had become stale. If I'm not mistaken, even Angelina Love, who was a big part of the company, had been kind of squandered in some kind of pseudo-lesbian gimmick with Winter. Mm-hmm. That I still don't get. I would love somebody to explain it to me one day because I don't get it. But
that's one of Russo's storylines that never really panned out for me. I just never completely understood.
It was mind control lesbianism that never had a payoff.
Yeah.
And as you know,
that was weird.
Mind control lesbianism requires a payoff.
Yeah, it's just
because it's a thing. People talk about that a lot, so it's a thing, so it requires a payoff.
On
that note, let's go with number 2. And that's going to be Awesome Kong. Amazing Kong, Awesome Kong, karma to the WWE faithful. Just absolutely important to the division. She was the Vader of the division. We called her that several times, and that's what she was. She was the Vader of the early 90s WCW scene to the Knockouts division in the 2000s. I don't know what her plans are right now, but you know what? Despite how she ended her run by punching out Bubba the Love Sponge, which I think Hogan would do now if he could. At the time, he was Hogan's buddy, but back then, but now I don't think that's quite the case anymore. Yeah, I mean, that's why she got...
I mean, do you really blame her for punching him in the mouth, though?
Well...
I mean, I want to punch him.
I do want to punch him, too, but the thing about it was he actually was right about the argument. She was doing something...
Oh, we don't need to...
Yeah, we've been going political with it briefly. She was really going gung-ho with the Haiti stuff, and he kind of was like, hey, we got starving kids in America. Why don't we do something for the Americans first before we start sending money to Haiti?
You know, right, again, not to get too political here, it's kind of the Bill Maher thing, where one of the reasons I don't like Bill Maher is not necessarily that I disagree with him, it's just the way he presents himself, and he presents himself like he's a total douchebag.
Right. There is people like Bob Beckel, or I'll say Eric Clancy, for those who are on the show, who fundamentally I like as people, but I disagree with them on basically everything political. And there's people like Warrior who fundamentally I pretty much agree with everything he says politically to some extent, but he's such a dick about it that I hate him as a person.
Yeah, that's funny how that works out.
Exactly. There's ways you can be polite and have your beliefs and allow others to have theirs, and that's not the way that they run. And number one knockout of all time is Gail Kim. We share her number one, and that's because, frankly, she was the division, the baby face of the division up against Awesome Kong. Those two still had some of the best female matches I've ever seen, and she still continues to have great matches with people that she has no business having great matches with, like the Taryn Terrell match at Slammiversary.
Oh, God, the two matches they had just blew my mind.
Yeah, and people will tell you that that's pretty much going to be a lot of Gail's work. Obviously, Taryn was a part of it, but sadly she went and got pregnant right after it when I think she could have parlayed that into a big babyface run.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm convinced that they were going to do something big with her, and obviously, given her current medical situation, that couldn't be the case. Absolutely not, no. Looks like the knockouts, half the knockouts on the Knockouts pay-per-view got knocked up. Which I haven't seen the Knockouts pay-per-view, so I don't know how it turned out, but, if you're a fan of the Knockouts, check it out. Yeah. And like we said, we did this list because we're not going to debate it down to our own top five because I think we all have valid reasons for each. You decide and you tell us on the Facebook page what you think. But, that's our list, and we hope everybody enjoyed our very Knockouts and Divas-themed episode, including the interview with Taeler Hendrix. And we'll be back in a few weeks with another kind of a themed episode. We're going to have Doyle King from the Global Wrestling Federation join us. Now, Doyle King was the announcer from late 1992 until the end of the company. Basically, if you remember back when we interviewed Craig Johnson, he kind of mocked the era that Doyle King was a part of. And that is the era that they started with when they started airing it on ESPN Classic. And what I basically want to do is use this as the opportunity to do what nobody else has done, and that's really get into why the company closed, why they started airing a lot of what they called Legends of Wrestling shows as opposed to 5-day week of new shows, which were mostly clip shows, and one day was the new show. Why basically the company just faded away the way that it did, because it had its following. It had its viewers. I was a kid that grew up watching this stuff, and I could tell you that when I went over a friend's house at that time, even if I went over a friend's house, they wanted to watch Global. That was like the after-school special that we all had to watch. So it had its following, and I was in New Jersey, by no means anywhere near Texas. So it had its following, and I'd like to kind of parlay this into a history lesson as to what the hell happened, because there is nothing, not wiki, not anything, that will tell you what happened, just that it faded away. And that's not good enough. I want to know why it faded away. Things just don't happen. Things happen for a reason. So
going to try and get an answer for that and kind of put that on the internet for the exclamation point on the 3-year plus global run that I think of very fondly. I don't know if anybody else on the planet does, but I think of very fondly.
Well, it definitely had its place. I mean, you look at all the talents that came out of there from, Sean Waltman and Jerry Lynn, and I think Bradshaw was there for a bit. Am I right on that?
Bradshaw was there during the Doyle King era. In fact, he called a lot of action in Global, green as goose shit, but he called a lot of action as well as wrestled.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I mean, he was very much, that's where he really cut his teeth, and I think that's something we can talk about. Booker T and Stevie Ray started there, and that's where they cut their teeth, and that's where Booker T learned basically the simplicity of working. There's just a lot of guys that came from there. Raven, Eddie Gilbert was the booker at first, and it was when Ed Gilbert was booking it, the show was so storyline driven. It was so ahead of its time. The whole show stemmed around a heel faction with a heel boss. This is in 1991.
Yeah.
7 years before Vince McMahon started all this stuff with the corporation and the NWO with Bischoff turning heel. It was way before its time. So, company that doesn't get enough respect. I know we've done a couple nods to them in the past. This one is kind of one. It might be for me than for anybody else, but I'm hoping other people enjoy it. And we also have Jesse Neal coming on the show and a couple other guests coming on. Bobby Blaze from WCW is going to be a future guest, as well as Bobby Eaton, beautiful Bobby Eaton. So,
interesting.
So I got a couple of them coming up here. Don't have dates on them yet, but keep checking out WrestlingEpicenter.com, InteractiveWrestlingRadio.com, and, of course, the Facebook page to find out more information on this.
All right, sounds good.
All righty, man, and thanks to Taeler Hendrix for joining us. We wish her nothing but the best, and if I didn't say so on the interview, and this has kind of been eating me up, she kind of said that her cancer cells moved from minimal to moderate, and I didn't really react to it, and that's kind of because I don't know how to. So I'll just say this here, my hopes that everything turns out well for her, because the cancer is the worst disease that I could think of. So, be careful, and best wishes.
All right, absolutely.
All righty, dude. Well, thanks again for joining us here on WrestlingEpicenter.com, and we'll see you in a couple weeks with Doyle King or one of our other great guests lined up.
Later, everybody.